Representative Carranza, you have 30 seconds for our closing remarks.
I would like to thank everybody who has tuned in to today's debate. And more importantly, I would like to take the time right now to tell you all why you should vote for me. I am very focused and loyal, and I plan to focus on important issues and topics that you all care about, and I will actually push and strive to bring change to these topics. I yield my time.
Representative Kersley, you have 30 seconds for your closing statement.
I believe in equity. I believe in you. I believe that I would be your majority candidate, the best one that we've had, because I'm driven. I know how to get things done, and I know how to uplift your voice over every piece of mine and over the collective Democratic Party. It's about your voices and what you believe in. That's what I'm here for. I believe in you. The question is, do you believe in me? I yield my time.
Thank you, majority candidates. We'd now like to welcome the Speaker of the House candidates, McKenna Allison, Sam Eggert, and Mia Thompson.
We will now read the opening statements for each candidate. Representative McKenna Allison, proudly endorsed by the Labor Union, is someone of leadership and fairness. She is running for the role of Speaker of the House based on the need for issues to be solved in a fashion where both parties collaborate. She believes that the only way to find solutions to problems that plague our country is to provide all people with a chance to find solutions. Representative Allison strongly believes not only in human rights for all, but also in equity, to provide equal opportunities for all.
Sam Eggert is a left-leaning moderate who has a lot of experience in politics. He loves to speak with Democrats, Independents, and Republicans to hear their views. He is determined to make a change and represent you. He believes he will do an amazing job as Speaker and would greatly appreciate your vote.
Representative Mia Thompson has been immersed in the political world since a very young age. Growing up with a political reporter father, she learned very early how important it is to consider the views of others, to look at all sides of an issue, and to remember that just because you cannot always hear the needs of voices of others, those needs are still there. This understanding is exactly why she wants to help lift up the voices of those in the 14th legislative semester. She saw when she was just 8 what it's like to participate in democracy when she walked in the Scott Walker Act 10 rallies. And she saw that again last year when the march in the Capitol for gun control took place. She strongly believes in the promotion of human rights, in a government which lifts up its people, in a democracy we can come together and defeat political polarization. Things like legalization of marijuana, women's rights, environmental protection, and common sense gun control are things she cares a lot about. But she cares more about your voices and your thoughts.
We will now move into questions. Representative Allison, this question is for you. As Speaker of the House, how would you resolve the growing political divide?
I think that the only way to solve the problems that are plaguing our country is to have both sides work together. So I'm not running for my own views. I understand that the majority leaders and the minority leaders are telling people their views because it's so important to have someone who represents your views. But the Speaker of the House is someone who has to bring both parties together. So it's not about my personal views, but how I can bring both parties together by listening to both sides and judging bills based on their merit. Because after all, a good bill is a good bill. So it doesn't matter what my beliefs are, but rather what the bill is discussing.
Representative Eggert, you have a 30-second rebuttal starting now.
The original purpose of the parties was so that the Democrats and the Republicans could come together and get the best views and best ideas of what we can actually do in this country. Now, specifically in recent years, a thing called hyper-partisanship has been plaguing our country, where specifically one side won't listen to the other side and only listen to their own views. And so I would encourage that both sides, Democrat and Republicans, listen to all other views. I yield my time.
Representative Thompson, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
I think that both Representative Eggert and Allison made some fantastic points. I agree, political polarization is one of the most terrifying things that's going on in our country, in our school, just in every community right now. It's why things like a government shutdown happen and why people go unpaid for weeks. So as a Speaker of the House, I would really want to kind of emphasize the relationship between majority, yes, but mostly minority and Speaker of the House, because I think that the minority leader.
Thank you, Candidate. Your time has expired.
All right.
Our second question will be for Representative Eggert. In the wake of increased violence in the area, do you believe that the United States should continue to support Israel? If not, what would you do in the region?
I believe that with increased violence in Israel, the U.S.'s best solution and option to do would be to give some support. I would not encourage the U.S. to do a full-on sending troops in like we have done in other instances in the history. But I don't believe we should do another World War II where we wait until it expands and comes back to haunt us. I believe we should give a little bit of support, just like in many other instances. I believe that little as possible military support should be given, but we should give it in a lot of instances. I yield my time.
Representative Thompson, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
Okay, so I think that Representative Eggert made some very good points. My view on America's involvement in foreign countries is that we should do what we can to help establish peace and democracy around the world. I'm not in a huge support of extreme military action, and I think that peace and trying to work with other countries should always be our first option. We've been involved with Israel. It's a very complicated issue, and I think that what's maybe more important is that we work to establish peace than go in with military action. I yield my time.
Representative Allison, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
I think that wars have never shown us that violence is the answer. Every war in the history of the world has never gotten something good for both sides. And so I think that the only way to solve these problems is to negotiate, because it's not black and white. It's such a complex issue, and so to bring both sides together, just as political parties are brought together, I think we need to negotiate in order to find a solution.
Okay, this next question goes to Representative Thompson. Tensions between police and citizens have been increasing. How do you plan to ease these tensions? You have 60 seconds.
All right, so I think that police brutality is something that has been kind of plaguing our country for a really long time now. There's obvious racial inequality, obvious racism in that, and I think that both the police need to be held accountable for it, though I have the utmost respect for police forces and those who serve our country in that way. I do think that things like body cameras are a really good option, and to hold accountable, officers. I also think that there needs, even more so, there needs to be change in laws such as drug laws about when people are being arrested for what crimes, because there is a lot of racism ingrained in that, especially with possession of marijuana, and even when we go back to the differences between arrests in crack and arrests in cocaine. And I think that kind of is the root of some violence that we see in police.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Allison, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Summer, I took Middleton's Summer Institute for Equity and Social Justice, and it really opened my eyes to a lot of the racial issues that are going on in this country. And so while I respect law enforcement officers, and I don't think that this issue is about blame and guilt on enforcement officers, I do think that there needs to be a change in the system. So as Representative Thompson was saying, there's issues where drugs are being put into communities that are at risk, and then...
This next question goes to Representative Allison. With the constant mass shootings our country unfortunately sees, in your opinion, how can we improve the safety of our students and teachers? You have, oh, sorry, did I forget a rebuttal?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
going
sorry
back to
about that.
question 3, Representative Eggert, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Yes, I agree with both what Representative Thompson and Representative Allison on this topic. However, I believe, like they said, they respect officers and the protective people And I believe that while there are few individuals in those groups that do discriminate and specifically target out minorities and discriminate against them, I believe that a large group of them don't.
Thank you, Representative Eggert. On to question 4, Representative Allison. With the constant mass shootings our country unfortunately sees, in your opinion, how can we improve safety of our students and teachers?
I believe that guns are never the answer. As our technology has improved, we have improved the technology of our guns, but that has only led to more deaths. And so I'm not for complete no guns because hunting is a great sport and everything like that. But I think that more guns in schools is not the answer to these issues. Instead, security detectors in schools and mental health for students included with that, and stricter gun control laws can help us to have safer schools and a safer nation.
What do you wish to do with the remainder of your time?
Oh, I yield my time to the floor.
Okay, we now have a 30-second rebuttal from Representative Eggert.
Yes, I agree with what Representative Allison said. I believe that more guns is not the answer. I don't believe that we should arm our teachers, and I don't believe that we should allow students to carry guns in schools, specifically universities. I believe more close regulation of like what gets into schools, like not letting firemen on, like she said, the metal detectors.
Representative Thompson, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
My opponents made some very good points. I would like to say that I think the Second Amendment, while I agree that it's important, is outdated. It was ratified in 1791. That's 228 years ago. Guns are different. People are different. Our military is different. The law needs to change with that. I can promise you, because when I was younger, I was in an active shooter situation at the Westtown Mall, and I wasn't sitting in the mall hoping that some other civilian was going to shoot the shooter. I promise you I was thinking, I wish the shooter didn't happen.
Representative, your time is up.
This next question goes to Representative Eggert. It is a known fact that fossil fuels found in the Earth's crust are being depleted. What will you do to ameliorate this situation? You have 60 seconds.
I firmly believe that fossil fuel use cannot be removed. It is ingrained in our society, our economy, and our overall way of life. What we can do, however, is we can make alternative energies a better option for people to use. This would be nuclear energy, and this would mean people in e-cars, electric-powered vehicles, instead of fossil-fueled cars. And how this will happen is we will make better versions of electronic cars that are more efficient and make it a better option than what fossil fuels are. Now, we can't just get rid of fossil fuels, but we can make e-cars a better option. And I'm not saying that we should get rid of fossil fuels or anything similar to that. I'm saying the consumer will decide that an electronic car will be better, and we should focus on that, not getting rid of fossil fuels. I yield my time.
Representative Thompson, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
I believe that the goal of our country right now should be trying to find sustainable energy alternatives. We have clearly started on a path that will lead us to a point of no return. Our climate cannot stand this anymore. And while my opponent made some good points, I think that what the government should be doing, what people should be doing, and what corporations should be doing is looking for ways to find more sustainable energy options and doing everything we can to protect and sustain our environment.
Time. We now have a 30-second rebuttal from Representative Allison.
I think if there's one thing that our nation needs to invest in, it is to find renewable energy sources. It's just not realistic to continue using fossil fuels for the rest of our time. And on the other hand, it's not realistic also to only use renewable energy sources. We need both in order to have the best sources of energy possible.
Representative Thompson, this question is for you. Should government records regarding corruption by high-level officials be released to the public? You have 60 seconds.
I think that government corruption right now is a huge problem, and it happens in a lot of different ways throughout local and federal government. I think that the public has a right to know what our politicians are doing because they're representing us, and I know that if one of us were to do something that would qualify for corruption in this high school election, I would want to know about it, or I would want you guys to know about it. And so, yes, I think that public record is important.
We now have a 30-second rebuttal from Representative Allison.
I think that government corruption is such an issue in today's world, especially with the dividing of political parties. As political parties are getting more polarized, there becomes more secrecy and undercover things that are happening in our government, and so I think we need to bring those to light in order to solve these problems.
Representative Eggert, you have 30 seconds.
I believe that government corruption is one of the things that is destroying our economy right now. And by this I mean specifically consumers are being taken advantage of by companies, and this is partly due to government corruption. For example, regulations are being taken away through corruption, and I believe that that should definitely be stopped. I yield my time.
Okay, that is all the questions. We will now have a closing statement from Representative Allison. 30 seconds.
So when I was a freshman, I heard about the role of Speaker of the House, and I immediately knew that I wanted to be Speaker of the House because I care about bringing both sides together in order to solve these issues that we face, and all with an emphasis on human rights. So in order to have a Speaker of the House serve you who is willing to put all representatives first, vote for Representative Allison. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Eggert, you will now have 30 seconds for closing remarks.
As a left-leaning moderate, I feel like I can represent your views better than anyone else can. I believe that I will be able to make full session run as smoothly as possible while making sure there's a vast diversification of what bills are passed. And if you want something done, no one else can do it better than I can. If you want something done, I'm your choice. If you want something done, Sam is the one.
Representative Thompson, you now have 30 seconds for a closing remark.
I think that right now our country is in a really terrifying place. Things are scary, and one of the biggest scary things to me is political polarization. There's no reason that Democrats and Republicans and any other party can't work together. And I think that our grade this semester has a really vast selection of incredible ideas and viewpoints and perspectives, and I want to be the one to lift up your voices and have them heard. I think that hope and bipartisanship can be seen as naive at times, but I see a lot of hope in this semester, and I want to be the one to make it louder. Thank you so much.
We will now yield the floor over to the debate director, Representative Ledeen.
Thank you for watching today's debate. Hopefully this has helped you decide who to vote for the upcoming election.